Hey class, Eugene here, talking about Project 2, the Vector Vehicle Project. Make sure that you read over the description. One of the things I want to point out before I kind of get into this is making a good choice of your car. Things to avoid: blurry pixelated photos, dirty flat paint jobs, environmental reflections, non-photo renders. I don't have really strong feelings on that though, so if you found a good 3D render, I wouldn't care. Poorly cropped, they cut off part of the car, poorly lit, and decals. We're trying to avoid all that. You really just want a car that was photographed in a showroom. Notice how this car has really bright highlights and really dark shadows. That makes a huge difference, that it's shiny. So sharp, high-res photos is what you're looking for. Clean, glossy paint jobs, smooth reflections, and brightly lit. So let's just do an image search real quick, okay? So sorry if I sound crappy. I have a cold, and this is in the middle of the coronavirus, which is wonderful, but it's not the coronavirus. Uh, I'm gonna type in muscle car, and I'll go to images, and I'll see a bunch of stuff that doesn't work. Just so you know, just a ton of it that really doesn't work. That doesn't work, and that doesn't work. See the environmental reflections. This one doesn't have a lot of environmental reflections, but see how there's no highlights in it except for maybe this little glossy part right there and some on the bumper and on the, we can do better. We can do better. Let's jump forward and look at a few that. How about this one? I'm not seeing the environment very much here. So I mean, this could work, but it looks like it's 570 by 456. So I'll go to Tools and Size and Large. That'll start me off a little better, a little smarter. It just went shiny. Yeah, I mean, if a student asked for that, I guess I'd probably say no. Look at the environmental reflections again, unless you're going to decide to make the environment. So see how this gets a little complicated? This one right here is, wow, what a beautiful photograph. I suppose if a student came to me, there are exceptions. Like this one could sort of work. It's big enough if you look right there. I'd probably ignore some of these little lines that we have going on there. Actually, I think that's from buffing it. I don't know. What do I know? But what works better is just kind of these showroom cars. All right, so like this guy right here. And now this is 960 by 960. I don't know why it looks like crud right now. I'll click on it and see if I can't get it to look any better. No, not now. All right, it took me to a car website. Okay, there it is. Not bad. Actually, that's like my dream car right there. It's very nice. But, you know, there you have it. Also on this assignment, it's kind of important to recognize that you can do two views or you can do a perspective view. So this is a perspective view right here, right? So that's perspective. That's at an angle. Now I've got something pulled up now. So this is a side view. So the tires are going to be kind of the same. When it's not in perspective, or strong perspective, I should say, it's easier. So I say do the front and the side, or do two orthographic views, or do one perspective view. So just keep that in mind. You can either do something a little bit easier and do more of it, or you can do something a little harder and do less of it. But those are your options. So please take note of those options right there. And please take note of this talk that we had on cars and not picking ones that make it difficult for you. By the way, it is the Vector Vehicle project, so you are allowed to choose something other than a car if you want. It just needs to have a shiny, glossy paint job and fit all the same criteria. If I were you, I wouldn't make it complicated. I just pick a car. Some students pick motorcycles. Some students have been like, can I do a tank or something like that? And I'm like, well, the tank doesn't normally have a glossy paint job. Because one of the technical things that we're trying to do on this particular assignment is work with gradients. So we want something that's geometric, that shows that you're good at the pen tool now, and we want something that is going to show off the fact that that you know how to use gradients, and that's part of the goal here. Yeah, it's clearing my cache for Firefox trying to get Blackboard Collaborate Ultra to work. All right, I don't know why I'm oversharing. Maybe I'll delete that part. No, probably not. Probably not. You know me. All right, so first thing you want to do is kind of get your file set up. So this is how I set mine up. This is the reference over here, and then this is the artwork. So if I go to save this thing, I'm kind of good to go. Now this is already set up, but let's just backwards engineer what I did here. So I brought the car in apparently, right? And then I went to Object, and I always do this. Artboard, not artboards, but Object. Where are you? Artboards, fit to selected art. So that's what I did. And I didn't do this until I had sized this up as big as I wanted it to be. So this is 386 by 2032. You know, if I definitely would go into the 3s and the 4s. This is a little small, but I'm going to leave it. Size it up and then crop it. Then I add an extra artboard using the artboard tool. So I went in and grabbed the artboard tool and I just made a copy. So I just selected and held Shift and made a copy. No, held Alt and Shift and made a copy. Sorry, like that. And then I altered the layers. So I put the reference layer on its own layer right here. See this guy? I lowered the opacity on this guy, made this guy smaller, and then this guy's on his own layer called artwork and full color. So when I save this, I can hold on a second while I blow my nose. So when I save this as a PDF, the first page will be the full color reference, and the second page will be the artwork, which will be non-printable. Just a reminder, how do you make something non-printable? You double-click the layer and you uncheck print, and you'll notice the layer becomes italic. So this is my reference, right? And this is my artwork. So how do you get started on this? Good question. Well, you lock this. Now, this one's barely started. Now, this is one from a past class. But the way you get started is you get all the major shapes. So what you want to do is, the first thing you want to get is that big old huge silhouette all the way around here. You know, that's what you want to do. In fact, let me grab this real quick. I'll do this and I'll just accelerate this part of the video. I'm going to be a little sloppy here because I'm in a hurry. You want to do this very, very pristinely and try and get this perfect. Now I can add that antenna later. As few anchors as possible. Really make this nice, because the silhouette's really important. Uh-oh. Ever happened to you? Press the space bar, hold down control, back up. There we go. Hold and control. Making little adjustments here. That was an ambitious move I just made right there. Not sure if it'll work or not, but decided to try it. Alright. I'll add this part on later. Alright, this silhouette means the world. Basically, I'll be relying on this for so many little things in the future. It's very, very important to have this silhouette. If you don't have a silhouette, ask yourself, why don't I have a silhouette? All right, so this is where you're probably like, what do I do here? I don't know if your voice goes up like mine just did, but you're probably wondering, what do I do here? Well, let me tell you, just do what I'm doing here. Don't grab the tires. It's one thing you don't need to do just yet. I do those separately. All right, and each car has its own nuance to it, its own stuff that you have to kind of figure out. Like right here, can't quite tell what's going on. Just going to make it up a little bit. There we go. Nice. All right. So this undercarriage part, I'm not going to worry about all those little details here. We'll be here all day. Actually, it looks a little weird down there, like damaged. We're going to pretend like that never happened, huh? Okay, so up here, and then let's work our way around again. I got a little sloppy right there if you're watching this, but I'm in a hurry. So if this is done poorly, like if this is done really poorly, your whole car is going to look pretty crusty. All right. A lot happening here. All that'll just be black shadows when I'm done with it. Again, this is an interpretation. I'm not being completely and totally faithful to the to every little detail in the car. We are going to be minimizing parts of it. All right. So finally, we reach the end. Make sure that thing closes, right? There we go. So I have this cool little silhouette to work with. I can flip back and forth, and I'm a happy camper. After you get this, you can start to come in here and get all the major stuff. And again, I'm not going to grab all of it, but let me say if you start off with the silhouette. Let me make sure I say that. And then you go in and you get the major stuff. Don't worry about any of the reflections. Worry about what I just call the actual things that exist in here, like the grill and the door handle and the windshield and the window and the body lines. Those are the things that you want to try to capture. You can see with this guy right here how I've captured a lot of that stuff. Now this is not done. This is just a partway through example, but saves me from having to make the whole thing for you. I got a lot of these cars, by the way. You'll be seeing me refer to several. But today this is sort of like a crash course on just how to get started with this. So the next step, I'll do a couple of these. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but where you can, just use circles, you know. So like right here, you know, I'm going to use a circle, an oval, and I might have to go make some adjustments like so. And look, I can do the same thing again here. Get my white arrow, go in there and make some small adjustments. Again, this doesn't have to be, it really doesn't have to be perfect, but you want it to be as good as it can be. And don't try to make the shape do something it doesn't want to do. So in that case, I'm not 100% sure if I like that or not. One thing I know is that I probably want to capture this shape that goes all the way around here, the grill, because I'll be using this to cut things out. So right here, you'd have to question, you know, should I try to get the bumper? No, we're trying to get the grill. I mean, that's our main focus. You might have to look at another reference photograph or lower the resolution to figure out what's happening on that grill right there. It's kind of weird how that's working now that I look at it. Okay, so I can make some decisions based off what I'm seeing here. This is going to end up just being a dark shade, a dark color. Honestly, that's what this is going to turn into. So it's not going to be the grill, but I'll add it in now. There's a whole nother dimension to this where a whole other level where you stop just grabbing shapes and you start grabbing colors. You know, the paint job. So sometimes if I see an opportunity to do that, I'll just do it. All right, look at this big long line here. I'm going to try to just avoid making too many anchor points. All right, let's go around this edge. Cool. All right, you can start to see this slowly coming together. You know, by the end of it, you'll have this super flat car, and you'll have all the basic shapes cut out, which is what you're going to want. The next level beyond this is going to be shading it. So let me talk to you about that a little bit. Notice here what I have. I have what's called an Opacity Gradient. Check it out. So this is a shadow gradient, and I've got this guy right there. This is another shadow, and you'll notice up here at the top, you might be like, well, what was this stuff that you had set up? Well, these are two opacity gradients. Let me show you how they work. I'm going to draw a solid color here. Just a color, you know, it can be any color really. In fact, let me show you something. I'm going to go in here and grab this, I'll turn off these highlights for a minute just to show you how this works. Thought the highlights were on their own layer, I guess they weren't. Give me a second here, let me make sure that they are. So this is a highlight, so I'll grab it up here on this highlights layer. I don't know why. Didn't have it there before, but I didn't. There we go. You can see me turn that on and off, I'm hoping. So what is this? Well, let's just select this color and I'm going to change it. And notice I can change it to like any color, and I can still turn on the highlights and the shadows just like that. How's that work? Well, basically I'm doing this. Let me send this to the back. Control Shift left bracket. Make sure this is both on the artwork layer. Yeah, there we go. So that's what's happening, is what you're seeing there. It's an opacity gradient. So watch this. I'll press Control C, Control F, and I'll make a little copy of this guy. Then I'll eyedrop this, and look, I can transition from light to dark just like that. And if I take my gradient tool and I adjust this, I can just show little subtle transitions happening right there. I'm going to press Control C and Control F, make another copy. Then I'll eyedrop over here, this shadow, and I'll do the same thing again. So this is just going to show me a little bit of a transition happening right there. Gets kind of complicated, it does, but this is just a great way to work ultimately. You just put these on a separate layer, right? These guys. And then if you ever want to change the color, if you're not happy with it, you can just go like this and you can change it. And you'll be right back in the same position. How do you make an opacity gradient? Let's make one real quick. It's good practice, right? Well, it's pretty simple, really. I'll go over here to the fill panel and I'll just start off with a basic black and white gradient without any opacity in it, right? So I got this guy selected. Well, it's still acting like an opacity gradient. What's up with that? You know why? I think that I had the blend mode set to multiply. No, I didn't. Well, whatever. We're going to figure this out. I'll click Edit Gradient and take a look at the gradient here. Got to open up my gradient options. Okay, on this end, I've got white, and on this end, the opacity set to 100%, and on this end I've got black, and the opacity is set to 100%. All right, so that's what I have at the moment. Let me adjust this with the gradient tool like that. So this is what I have. So the way it works to make these is pretty simple. You make them the same color on both ends, so I'll go black on both ends, right? So I'm going to go black on both ends of the gradient. So on this end, I'll double click here, make this black. Then on this other end, I'll take the opacity down to 0. And there you go, I've got an opacity gradient. It'll do the thing I just described. And I can reverse that too and do a highlight gradient. Or this is a shadow gradient, shadow opacity gradient. This is going to be a highlight opacity gradient. I can take this guy and simply make this one white and this one white. And there we go. Now this can create a little bit of a graying effect whenever you're making shadows with it, right? Let's look at it. All right, check this out. Control C, Control F. I've got 2 of these now, see? And then I'm going to eyedrop this so you can see the gradient. So if I wanted to, I could have this overall, I noticed this was darker from the bottom, or if you look at the reference, it's kind of darker back here from the back, so you can do this overall color. This is cool. It works pretty well. But if you want to, you can also mess with blend modes like multiply, and multiply will actually burn in the color a little bit better. So you're allowed to use blend modes. Now, screen's not going to do anything because it brightens stuff, but multiply darkens stuff. Now, if you didn't want to do that, you wouldn't have to, but it'll look a little bit better if you set that to multiply. All right. So there's other stuff to talk about, but that's just kind of a quick introduction to help you get working on your car. I hope you found it. I hope you found this useful. Expect more. Talk at you soon.